some street circuits, there is a bit of room on the track there. There is certainly no runoff with the exception at either end of the circuit. And what embraces the sides of the circuit are concrete walls and metal fences, Chris. Very unforgiving.
A few cars yesterday minus their right side wing mirrors, weren't they, as they scraped into the walls. So there's Rocky, one of 8 champions, DTM champions that we have in the field, so a third of the field champions. 16 of them, 16 of the 24 drivers have won races in DTM, so you could argue that this is, in terms of driver quality, one of, if not the strongest championship we've had. On board with Jamie Green then, who has done all his winning here at the Norisring as a Mercedes driver. He's yet to take a win at the circuit for Audi since he switched a couple of years ago. Had a couple of barren seasons with no wins. Ironically, his best season in terms of the championship, when he finished in third, became his last season for Mercedes. It was after that he switched across to Audi, but he's picked up these 3 wins so far this season. He leads the championship on 81 points, only 7th in the race yesterday, but it was a bit of a lottery because some started on slicks, some started on wets on a damp track to begin with. Pascal Wehrlein was one that drove really well on slick tyres for the first half of the race and held them off at the end of the race to take that win. But Robert Wickens, for my money, was the quickest driver on the track at the end of the race. So the Canadian, who also loves this track, is going to be one to watch here.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie Green it is, as you can see on the graphics on the left-hand side, that set the quickest lap time thus far, a 48.871. He now goes even better with a 48.773. So he takes 9/100ths out of his previous time. It's Green, it's Tom Blomqvist, and then it's Maximilian Goetz, who is P3 at the moment, though that's quickly changed to Gary Paffett. We're watching Lucas Auer now, former FIA F3 star, now in DTM for his first year in DTM. Lucas Auer in the distinctive pink livery that he runs. He goes P12 from P17. Green is still top of the chart at the moment with that 48.773, although Christian Vittoris, as I speak, knocks Green down to P2 with a 48.483 for Christian Vittoris.
Great shots on board here with Jamie Green. One looking up at the driver now, just over his shoulder. There he is in the orange Audi, the Team Rosberg car, going over the line. He goes second at the moment. So Jamie Green, who's been the lead Audi driver, not just of the season, but also here this weekend. Audi have struggled a bit, certainly by their own very high standards, but Jamie has been the one Audi driver that has been up there and sort of carrying the fight for BMW. Had a difficult start to the season. Is Bruno Spengler, another fast Canadian around this circuit, and the former champion. At the end of the race yesterday, was absolutely flying after the four Mercedes, wasn't he? He didn't quite have time to catch them, but he could be a factor in this race.
Of course, Audi carrying weight because of their success. Christian Vittoris is top. Then it's Matthias Ekstrom, who was lowly yesterday. He goes P2. Now Maxime Martin is P3. And this man, Jamie Green, is currently P4, but he's done 2 greens and a purple sector and now goes back to P2.
Yeah, his best lap gets him back up to second place. He's almost exactly 1/10 of a second slower than Christian Vittoris, who's on provisional pole with that 48.414. Lucas Auer, 11th. He had his best qualifying session of the year so far here yesterday with a 12th, but Lucas, he didn't have a very good race. Got involved in a bit of contact, but the Austrian going well in 12th position.
And I think that might change now. Yes, it does. Knocks 6 positions forward. He goes to P6 now, Lucas Auer. It's Vittoris, Green. Juncker Deyer is P3 now. Max Goetz is P4. Then it's Eki P5. There is Pascal Wehrlein, who immediately puts that car on P5 with a 48.688. More to come, I think, from Pascal Wehrlein. We're on board with Maxime Martin. Personal best in Sector 1. What can he do through Sector 2? Another PB in Sector 2, Maxime Martin. And he has the final sector. And we keep the clock. There's the benchmark time from Vittoris, 48.4. Maxime Martin crosses the timing line now and goes P2 for BMW.
That's more like it. He's been the best of the BMW drivers in terms of point scoring this year, although he dropped out of the race early yesterday, didn't he? He was one of the first to retire after contact damage. And Eki has had a quiet weekend so far this season. He goes third, and Davey's sporting a different livery this weekend because this is a very special anniversary year for Audi.
Yes, absolutely. That car sporting the same livery as Hans-Joachim Stuck's car that took the first win in that Audi from several years ago. Sorry being distracted as I'm keeping an eye on Augusto Farfus here, who was P6, now goes P5. And here comes Edo Mortara. So this short, sharp session here, just 13.5 minutes left to run. Vittoria's leading. Maxime Martin just gone through. He's P2. And Matthias Ekstrom, with that livery that you mentioned, is P3. Now, this is Paul Di Resta, who is currently P6. He was higher up in the order right at the very, very early stages of this. And still to see a good time from Robert Wickens. Look at that. Best of anyone in one sector. Let's see what Robert Wickens can do then. He was P21. It's not going to stay that way. It goes P1, 48.298.
1.5 tenths quicker than Christian Vittorius to go on to provisional pole position. Great effort that to third place now is Maxime Martin in the BMW, and Matthias Ekstrom, 25 years after that first DTM win, that first DTM championship for Audi from Hans-Joachim Stuck, who's here this weekend. He is in fourth place. Jamie Green, the title leader, fifth. Augusto Farfus back down to sixth. There goes Eki. Good effort in the first two sectors, losing out a little bit in the final sector, so he stays fourth. Pascal Wehrlein has just put a lap in to go sixth. Farfus down to seventh. Di Resta, he's down to eighth place now. Ankadea is ninth. And then rounding out the top 10 and having just gone into the pits is Nico Müller.
So we watch the Augusto Farfus car then. The BMW driver Augusto Farfus crosses the timing line now and stays P7 because he's not able to improve. Where are we with Gary Paffett? P11 at the moment. Gary Paffett, the Mercedes, ahead of Augusto Farfus at the moment. There you can see him going through. Paffett, of course, taking a podium yesterday. And delighted to do that. Antonio Felix da Costa runs with number 13, and he's currently P16. Done a PB in Sector 1. Sector 2 was not as impressive, nor Sector 3, so P14 for Antonio Felix da Costa at the moment. Wickens then still leading this with 11.5 minutes left to run, a 48.298. And that's exactly what you were saying, as mirrors can be nerfed off, can't they, when you get just a little bit too close to that wall.
You've got to get as close as you can to it, though, because that means you've got to get the power down early, because you've got that long run coming out of the hairpins onto the straight. So you can't afford to be, you know, even half a metre away from it, because it means you're not getting on the gas quickly enough. So you've got to get right up to it to have a quick lap time.
And that was right up to it, wasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Car's a bit lighter now, isn't it?
So that is the Matthias Ekstrom car that we were talking about, was sporting that anniversary livery, if you like. There is Pascal Wehrlein. And what have we got? Just on 10.5 minutes left to run, and Robert Wickens untroubled at the top at the moment with a 48.298. The closest to it is Christian Vittorius on a 48.414. Good showing from Maxime Martin. He's P3, 48.484. And then it was the Matthias Ekstrom car that is currently P4. Martin Tomczyk's car being backed into the garage there. And we go back out on track to see Robert Wickens, who has set another blistering first sector, Chris, but not so good in Sector 2.
No, it's, if you can hook this together, it still might shave a few hundredths of a second off his time. 48.298 seconds is his own provisional pole time. He goes through 48.373. That in itself, though, would have been good enough for pole position. That's the second fastest lap we've seen. So still a good effort from Robert Wickens, who won at this circuit last year. Been a desperate weekend so far for the 08-09 champion Timo Scheider, who started plumb last yesterday. He's going to be near the back for this one as well if he's not careful. He's down in 22nd place. Timo Glock is struggling as well, 23rd.
So Timo Glock has done a PB in Sector 1. PB doesn't mean that much, does it? And PB in Sector 2 as well. But Timo Glock certainly needs to improve from that P23 position at the moment. Here's Bruno Spengler. We're going to see cross the line now. P3. We're seeing more Bruno Spengler this weekend than we have done of late. Here comes Timo Glock. What can he put together to elevate himself up from P18? Well, 48.721.
5 places gained. He was 23rd, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So but we're talking less than 0.8 of a second, the difference between being first on the grid and last on the grid here.
Nico Muller. And also coming out now, that's Adrien Tombe, the very left of your screen, as Paul di Resta is P9. On board with Bruno Spengler now.
Great shot, isn't it? Look at that.
Absolutely kissed the wall on the outside and on the inside as well. Brilliant driving from these DTM drivers.
Get a real sense of speed, don't you, when you're running so close to the walls. And how low down these cars are. Just the 570 brake horsepower of these thoroughbred V8 racing cars. Right to the edge of the wall there. Spengler was impressive yesterday in his the final third of the race. Is chased down of those four Mercedes. Looks to Costa in. New Hankooks going on. New slick tyres. And in the pit stop in the race yesterday, there's no mandatory pit stop yesterday, but they were coming in to change from wets to slicks, many of them. We were seeing the customary Formula 1 style pit stop times, weren't we? 2.7 seconds to change all four tyres. But there will be a mandatory stop in today's slightly longer race.
On board then with Bruno Spengler, using that sequential gearbox control, the paddle shift on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Bruno Spengler currently P3. It's two Mercedes, P1 and P2. Robert Wickens and Christian Vittoris. These onboard shots, Chris, as you say, absolutely fantastic, giving you a real sense of the speed. And there, Bruno at work in the office.
If you're in the passenger seat, you'd have a terrifying ride. But he looks like he's in an armchair, doesn't he? It's all, you know, it's what he does. Completely relaxed with it all. So back out is Eki. Much better than yesterday, this, isn't it? And currently in the top 5. And yesterday, Eki was one of those drivers that's gone well in the championship so far this year that really struggled. He was back in 21st on the grid, bearing in mind he's been on the first couple of rows of the grid for the races recently, and he's second in the championship. It was a real hammer blow yesterday, but he's back on form today. They've got the car sorted.
We're watching Paul di Resta exit from the pit lane then. And just a few moments ago, we saw this man come back out onto track. That is Adrien Tombe. And he crosses the timing line now, and he's P13. Adrien, of course, UK resident now. It's in London. So Adrien Tombe then P13. Weekend's untroubled at the top. 48.298. Molina, who was P24, stays there. Danny Juncadella on the left-hand side, and Maximilian Goertz as well on their way out. There's Rahul Frey, former DTM star herself, now racing in GT categories. Was rather unceremoniously nerfed out last weekend, as I recall, at Spa. So good to see Rahul Frey back again. Sparks coming off the Antonio Felix da Costa car. Some fantastic creative shots here.
Miguel Molina is less than 0.7 of a second slower than the pole sitter, but he's plumb last, and that just shows how competitive this championship is. You are trying to find a couple of centimetres around a lap. You're trying to find the blink of an eye around a whole lap here, and that is why the teams are so professional. They prepare these cars so thoroughly to eke every last millisecond out of them, and the drivers too.
Right, we turn the wick up now because we're into the last 5 minutes. Pascal Wehrlein is the first one that we put the clock on now. So he heads towards the timing line. Pascal Wehrlein, 48.540, does not improve upon his previous P7 time. Here's Gary Paffett, PB, Sector 1. Not so good, Sector 2. Was P14. Stays there because it doesn't improve. Now this is Maxime Martin, who is P4 at the moment, just one behind Bruno Spengler, his BMW teammate. under 4 minutes left to run. Lucas Auer now. Great sector 1, not so good sector 2.
Just lost the back end a little bit under braking there into the second hairpin. But that first sector was almost a match, wasn't it, for what Wickens was able to do. It could get him up, it will, up to 4th place. Lucas Auer in his debut season in DTM, 4th in last year's FIA Formula 3 Championship. Going well, the Austrian, as is this man, former runner-up in the Blancpain Endurance Series, Maxime Martin. Background in GT racing, but immediately last year the Belgian looked good, didn't he, in DTM, and he's looked competitive this year as well.
Took a victory, of course, at the Moscow Raceway, did Maxime Martin. So it's Vitoris that is quickest on a 48.284, then it's Wickens, then it's Spengler, then it's Lucas Auer, then we see Maxime Martin, who we're on board with now. Ekstrom is P6, Wehrlein P7, Jamie Green, Gary Paffett and Paul de Resta round out the top 10 at the moment with just under 3 minutes left to run.
So Vitoris is just snuck ahead of Wickens by 14 thousandths of a second. Wickens has had 2 PBs in the first 2 sectors. It was almost there. It's his best lap of the session, but he stays second. He can't quite get that pole position back. There he is. 48.293, 9 thousandths of a second. The difference between being on the inside and on pole position and being second. Vitoris has got the place at the moment. And then up into 3rd place now has crept Bruno Spengler. Look, he's going well in 3rd place. Lucas Auer we saw going 4th. Martin, another quick BMW in 5th.
Just saw Jamie Green adjusting the brake bias there, and he's done a PB in sector 1, not so good in sector 2 as he gets oh so close to the wall. Currently P7 for Jamie Green. Let's stay on board with him as he crosses the timing line now. Jamie Green improves a couple of places, goes up to P5. So Jamie Green then dubbed Mr. Norisring. Heavy braking. Nice and tidy through that turn. Again, hugs the outside of that wall. Then we'll dive to the inside now. Sets himself up for this Scholler S. This is a brilliant shot that we're able to bring you now out onto the paved area. And oh, so close to the wall. Absolute precision. We're on board with Bruno Spengler now. PB Sector 1. He's currently P3.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's not just about being brave and wild as a racing driver. It's about being, they're so precise and accurate to the millimetre. Their turning points and their braking points. Absolutely spot on. You have to be here, don't you? But Bruno going well. He's got on to provisional pole with just about a minute to go. Spengler, this is a fight back for BMW. He showed potential yesterday, didn't he? So he's got a 48.28, so he's 4 thousandths quicker than Vitoris.
I didn't see that coming with that middle sector, which wasn't brilliant, but hooked it all up, didn't he? And we stay on board with Bruno Spengler, who is P1 at the moment. Jamie Green is the car ahead that you can see. So Bruno Spengler got it all together. It's Spengler, Vitoris, Wickens and Ekstrom with less than 20 seconds in this session left to run. Well, Vitoris has parked it. Spengler still out there. Tom Blomqvist, P20 for the ex-F3 star. His debut year in the DTM.
Time's up. Clock is down to 0 seconds. So last lap for everybody now that started one. Still a chance of 1 or 2 changes, not too many, setting PBs at the start of the lap. He's gone well in the middle sector. Could he sneak into the top 3 with this? 3 goes. No, stays 4th. 48.512. He's a 10th away from his very best time. Oh, Wickens has gone quickly in the middle sector. Better than anybody, in fact. One last throw of the dice for Robert Wickens. Well, he's not quite going to do it, Dave.
No. So, Spengler, Vitoris, Wickens, Ekstrom, there is
box, Bruno, box.
Toto and Susie Wolf.
You are in pole, Bruno. You are in pole. Thank you.
Mr. Spengler's pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and the team too. A real tough start to the year, BMW.
You are in pole, Bruno. You are P1.
No, he's just realised. He didn't know that.
Yes, man, yes! Oh, man, that feels good. That feels good. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you, the team. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Mike. That feels good.
Like an Oscar speech, this. I think he won the race, Dave. But this comes from the frustrations of what's gone before at the start of the year, doesn't it?
Apologies for Bruno's language, but you can understand just how chuffed to bits he is. And Spengler is on pole position. But Chris, 48.280 plays 48.284.
And third was 48.293. 13 thousandths of a second between the top three. You get a tape measure out and you wouldn't need much of it, would you, to measure the difference between them?
Extraordinarily close.
So having had Audi dominate the qualifying sessions, yesterday we had a Merc on pole, today we've got a BMW on pole.
Yeah, and it's mixed the order up, hasn't it? Because we've got BMW, then we've got two Mercedes, then we've got an Audi, then another Mercedes, and actually the P5 Mercedes is Lucas Auer,
Yeah,
which
done really well.
we wouldn't have expected that yesterday. So,
well, gone
Mr.
really
and Mrs. Wolf, and they're the M-Tech team, pretty happy with that. And that's the car that has delivered the pole position for the race that comes up this afternoon. And the driver that has delivered it is about to clamber out of the car. And we've already heard just how happy he is.
And we know he's got good race pace from what he showed us yesterday. On admittedly probably not as grippy a track, on a track which had only just dried midway through the race, but I think he's got the longevity as well. And Bruno Spengler, another of the former champions, of course, had a miserable season last year, and he was 18th in the championship before this weekend. He's cracked up to 15th in the championship with his best results of the season yesterday in 5th place. He's back.
Okay, let's take a look at the qualifying then. It's Spengler and Vitoris will be on the front row with Wickens and Ekstrom, then Auer and Wehrlein. Then it'll be Jamie Green and Paul de Resta, Maxime Martin, Danny Juncadella, Gary Paffett and Augusto Farfus then on row 6 of the grid. Then we will see Tombe and Glock, Muller and Gertz, then Antonio Felix da Costa and Edo Mortara. Then it will be Rockenfeller, Blomqvist, Tomczyk, Wittmann, P22, and then Timo Scheider and Miguel Molina. Now, the reason I reinforced the Wittmann, P22, he is the champion.
Yeah.
Yes, Bruno. Yes.
I think I've never seen anybody quite so happy to get a pole position in any category.
Bruno's back, perhaps.
He needed that. That's a bit of a tonic for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a confidence boost as much as anything else, isn't it? Very, very important.
Yeah, I suppose you have a torrid year last year, then you think, right, we're going to sort it out this season. Then you have a bad start to the year, and you think, oh, not again, not another year of disappointment. But despite the bad start to the year, because we've got more races, because we've got 18 races instead of 10, there is still time to catch up. Oh, well done, Bruno.
Looking good. And they're the team very, very happy, of course. They work jolly hard, Chris.
And who'd have thought, after yesterday's qualifying performance, that the best Audi would be Eki in 4th?
Well,
Jamie Green's up there again, 7th, not too bad. Might be sort of points consolidation this weekend there, rather than necessarily going for the victory.
well, big crowd have enjoyed the drama that qualifying always delivers, and they'll enjoy the drama of the race and what that will deliver a little bit later this afternoon. And here is the grid. Bruno Spengler from pole position. Christian Vitoris goes from P2.
Last year's winner, Robert Wickens, will line up third. Matthias Ekstrom, after a disappointing day yesterday, is looking good in fourth spot.
On the third row of the grid, it's a Mercedes lockout with an impressive performance from Lucas Auer, P5, and Pascal Wehrlein, yesterday's winner, P6.
On row 4, the points leader, Jamie Green and Paul de Resta. Those two came together yesterday.
Maxime Martin and Daniel Juncadella will go from P9 and P10.
And then on the 6th row of the grid, Gary Paffett, who was on the podium yesterday, and Augusto Farfus.
Then we see the Adrian Tombe car with ex-Formula 1 star Timo Glock.
Next up, 13th and 14th, Nico Muller, and the newcomer to the series, Maximilian Gutz.
P17 and 18 for Antonio Felix da Costa and Eduardo Mortara.
And then the back end of the top 20, former champ Mike Rockenfeller and newcomer Tom Blomqvist.
Martin Tomczyk and Marco Wittmann, P21 and P22. Disappointment for them, I'm sure.
And the final row of the grid, Timo Scheider on the last row of the grid again, as he was yesterday. Miguel Molina joins him.
So P3 then, Robert Wickens. We felt he had the win in him yesterday, but
I think he felt that too.
Held station, didn't he? P2 then for Christian Vitoris. And the number 8 Mercedes-Benz. Thumbs up from him. But the man of the moment, Chris, is this man.
Bruno Spengler is going to mix things up this. The BMW M4. A BMW on pole position for the first time. And a cracking racing prospect this afternoon. Any one of 6 could win it. Pascal Wehrlein, yesterday's race winner, rounding out the top 6. You've got Jamie Green, the points leader, 7th. And Paul de Resta could do something from 8th place as well. That's the man they've got to beat though, Dave. And he's overjoyed with his pole position.
Yes, absolutely. It's back for Bruno Spengler. And back with a bang, because he goes from P1 for the race this afternoon. Here at the Norisring, the street circuit that the DTM visits here at Nuremberg, and with the sun glistening down and a big crowd to enjoy the race action from DTM this afternoon. The grid has been set. Slightly longer race this afternoon with a mandatory pit stop as well, which throws into the mix a lot of variables, and lots can happen. But it's very interesting that we have BMW, Mercedes and Audi all in the top 4. As we take a look at some of the highlights from Chris and myself, we look forward to seeing you for the race this afternoon.